Hey guys, welcome back. Laurence McKenna on LFC channel, where we're going to be talking about Liverpool's centre-back problem and the real issue that faces this side right now in some very key areas. Of course, defence has always been something that we felt mixed on in recent years. When we've had Virgil van Dijk there, when we've had a secure centre-back partnership, we've very much been in the Champions League and the Premier League contention in almost all seasons where, basically we've had the spine and the core of that squad. But in rebuilding a team, very often you will find that some parts of that squad or some parts of that spine there'll be a slight dip. Or there'll be a time where they doubt themselves, or there'll be a time where they don't quite knit in the same way because they are transitioning into a new era of, whatever we want to play. And that is happening right now. But what I don't want to do is mistake one for the other. And what I certainly don't want to do is mistake one result with Crystal Palace at Wembley Stadium for a series of results. Now, Arne Slot himself has called out the fact that we've conceded a lot of goals in the last few games. And I think, to an extent, when a manager calls something out, that's a bit of a rallying cry to the players, but you also know it's him just publicly acknowledging, yeah, I'm aware of this. We know that we're conceding a lot of goals. And to an extent, it's beating whoever is going to beat you up on this to the punch. He's very good at that. And he's also very good at managing a lot of these issues. He's an adaptable, smart coach. And he will know that there are a lot of different solves to this. But I was speaking to a friend of mine, Sam Maguire, this morning. He was talking about kind of not the misuse of Kerkez, but the new use of Kerkez, and I think how we all expected Kerkez to be used, and then how he's actually being used by Arne Slot. And on his brilliant Patreon article, I'll link it in the description below, he talks about how Kerkez is basically similar maybe to Andy Robertson last season, slightly more conservative on that left-hand side, and how we all assumed it was because it was Andy Robertson that was maybe not in the shape that we want him to be in, or whatever you want to call it, or he wasn't quite fit enough, or whatever you want to say. But actually, the reality of the situation was that we needed to have bodies back in order to cover that. Now, some of you might say, well, Liverpool got caught down the left and the right against Crystal Palace the other day, and they found themselves in a situation where multiple times we were caught out wide. So why are you discussing the centre-backs? Well, first of all, the back line is a unit. The back line is a 4 or a 5, if you want to include the goalkeeper. It is a 4 plus the 2 in front of it, of those 2 holding midfielders that rotate when it comes to Arne Slot's team. At least that's what we think, right? And so when you see those players bomb on, when you see Kerkez or you see Frimpong go further down the field, generally you're seeing a midfielder sit a little deeper. Liverpool didn't have that balance against Palace because they frankly just didn't have the players who normally hold in those positions. Curtis Jones doesn't, as good as he is, he didn't quite have that discipline yesterday. And Dominic Szoboszlai was expected to do a lot of different things, especially when Ekitike finally left the field. So with it being this kind of unbalanced situation in the overall team, I don't think that we can see ourselves in a situation where we're only blaming the centre-backs. At the same time, that doesn't mean that we aren't a centre-back short. That doesn't mean that we don't need to sign another centre-back. I think Liverpool will go out and they will approach this situation with Mark Guehi. I think we're looking at Leone, but I'm just going to say it. I don't think you can expect an 18-year-old to come in and either address a lot of the problems that we have or fix those in such a short space of time that we are, as we need to be, win now as a team. So I think it has got to be Mark Guehi that comes in. My main reason for that is, first of all, Van Dijk's a starter. Konate needs some challenging, but I also think with Guehi being a player who is right-sided but plays with the left foot, we could play him on either side of the defence, similar in adaptability and possibly, just ability to play all the way along the back line to Joe Gomez, when Joe Gomez is actually fit, but also because we don't currently have Joe Gomez, and Joe Gomez kind of plays in fits and spurts rather than for consolidated periods anymore. And as good as he is, and I've got to admit, I think Joe Gomez is fantastic whenever I see him play for Liverpool. My concern with Joe is his fitness, or at least his kind of availability. And if it isn't his fitness, then it is how available he is for our side. And Arne Slot has continually said, I need players who are available. I need players who are going to be ready to play every game so that A, we can coach them, and B, they know where they need to be, or they know, we can get their fitness to the right level. Arne Slot's team demand fitness. They demand, as does most teams in the Premier League, but they demand a different level. And you can see that in Kerkez. By the time that he gets to 60 minutes, frankly, just the other day, it was, he's dropped off a cliff. Where do we go next with where do we go next with Kirkes? Frimpong, equally exhausted by the end of the game and able to get up and down the field for a majority of it and winning the ball back. But I think, again, we're still looking at a very different player to Trent. I think a lot of people there on that right-hand side, by the way, are currently kind of giving us a bit of a pass because they go, well, Trent's not there. But we've had Bradley there for quite some time as well, and that was a very seamless transition between Bradley and Trent, and they are very different players. As much as they're from the academy, as much as they're both right-backs, they're very different styles of play, and Bradley really fit in seamlessly. I'm not saying I don't think Frimpong fits. I absolutely think he does. I think he's a great player. And, his goal was a mistake, but, you can see he's got an attacking contribution. I think at the moment it's the speed of this Liverpool side getting from end to end. And as much as we've got those nice quick touches, sometimes it becomes too intricate in midfield. The ball gets a bit congested in there and it doesn't get out wide fast enough. Frankly, because I'm wondering if sometimes we're not balanced enough in our defence. And if we had, first of all, a back three or kind of a shape that we felt a bit more comfortable with back there and a holding midfielder, would we have players who were able to get down the field a little bit more? And that was kind of an overall question from pre-season, but particularly, as I was saying with Sam Maguire, and as he was frankly pointing out to me, rather than me being tactically a genius like him, I was more in the opinion of that because we lack that holder, we lack the overall balance, and therefore that will change the roles of other people around. It had a bit of a knock-on effect. And I think a lot of people are judging a side that, first of all, doesn't have all the finishing pieces in it. I think we will get another centre-back, and I think we will get another, at least, attacking option, considering what I've addressed in the other videos. But I also think once we have centre-backs that feel settled, the whole team feels settled. And that's always been the case with Liverpool in recent years, but frankly, always been the case with most top sides in recent years. You're looking at Pep's team, the second that they lose one of their defensive guys in Rodri or in one of the two core centre-backs, you're looking at a team who doesn't build up in the same way, who doesn't feel as confident, who worry that they're going to have to be back for whatever centre-back it is who's going to be out of position or not feeling as comfortable. And overall, the build-up suffers as much as the actual defensive play. I think that's the case with Liverpool right now. I think we're assuming that Konate and Van Dijk are the automatic solutions because they've been so much of an automatic solution for Liverpool in recent years. And obviously they're a title-winning centre-back pairing. And they are fantastic. They are good. But if Konate doesn't want to be there anymore, Konate does want to move away, and we are going to see him run his contract down, I think we are seeing players who will play within their skin. We've seen that with Trent since he left for Real Madrid. And, I don't always blame them for this. I find it hard to understand, but I don't blame them for it because I understand their motivations, or at least I think I do. And on the other side of that, is that great transfer business for us if we're holding ourselves back in a team that needs to be win now? And the reason I say we're win now is because Van Dijk's in the last 2 years of his contract, as with signing a new 2-year contract is, and so is Salah in the last 2 years of his contract. And I think that, frankly, I don't know if we'll see either of them see those out. I think we might see Van Dijk see his out, but I'm not sure we're going to see Salah see his out. I think we'll actually see Salah leave. There's a possibility I think we see Salah leave next summer, off to Saudi, getting us some decent value, rather than running his contract down and, finding us in a position where, we're basically left with nothing on the table. And I think Salah doesn't want to be that guy, and equally, Liverpool don't want him to be that guy. So fair enough. But how do you then address this centre-back situation? Sure, there is youth, but I don't think that youth is going to be the immediate fix. And I do think that rotation will be in there. But I think the real thing here is challenging those two centre-backs and bringing in people who have the ability to play the way that Arne Slot wants. Now, I think Liverpool would have gone out from day one and gotten Mark Gray if it was the exact player, if he fit the exact model that Liverpool want. But I think he's the closest to what we need. He's a player who, similar to Kirke, similar to Frimpong, is great at tackling on his feet, great at carrying the ball down the field, great at, when there is a turnover in the opposition, bringing the ball forward. And all those things are going to go in our favour. But he's not the same aerial dominance that Konate is. And I just wonder at times, and what I'm saying is we've got world-class players in their positions and world-class players in what they do, as to whether we are putting ourselves in a situation where, frankly, we are playing world-class players but not playing to their world-class abilities because of what we want to do within the side. And I think that's fair enough. I've said the same about the midfield at times where it's like, where's that midfield going to be in 2 or 3 seasons' time? And obviously we've got to win now with that midfield, and that is great. But as we build into this slot era, Konate and Van Dijk were very much Klopp men. And that's not me saying, therefore, they're loyal to him or whatever else. But it is that there are different styles of centre-back in the modern game. And if we're looking at Leone, if we're looking at Guay, if we're looking at a youthful rebuild, what we want to do is bed those people in. that isn't Joe Gomez, who's available a quarter of the season. That isn't Konate, who does get injured from time to time. That isn't obviously Quansah, who's now gone. It might be Nallo. It might be Stevenson. It might be any of these guys. I think those guys have looked very good in recent games, and they've looked very confident. And Nallo got that, that unfortunate debut last season in the Champions League. But the fact is, we need a win now centre back, and one of the only market options at the moment is Mark Guehi. I think there are, by the way, other people in there, and I'm interested. I think there are Brighton centre backs that are involved in. I think it's Van Hecker. Let me just check with Brighton, because it was actually a solution the other day that was suggested when I was on. Let me look at these lineups. Yeah, it was Van Hecker that was suggested by Dougie Critchley. He's obviously Dutch, which I think is big. He's obviously fits that tall profile. If you look at him in terms of kind of the player that he is, I think he would be very much within that age category of Liverpool love a centre-back who can play in the Premier League, who's going to get Premier League experience with Brighton, who broadly seems to have had a pretty good season, and pre-season, and equally last year proved he can play at the top level. I mean, obviously Brighton weren't the power that we expected them or want them to be, but there they are. I think Liverpool will need to shop around a little bit, but I think we are going to end up with Mark Guehi, mainly because I think we need another leader and character in the side. Equally, take out Konate, put in Mark Guehi, and I think we end up with another homegrown. Am I wrong about that, guys? Let me know in the comments below. Anyway, let me know what your solution would be to the big centre-back problem that we have right now, and where you think we can move forward. I think it would be knee-jerk of me to say that I think it's all based on this, based on the game against Crystal Palace. I think we knew this long before that. But I also think that Crystal Palace was a good proving ground, and it did show where Liverpool are weak. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And of course, there is a Discord down there for free. There is membership and a Patreon down there if you want to support the work that we do. And of course, the Super Chat if you just want to do that as a one-off. I appreciate you guys watching, and I will chat to you in a while. Much love.